If you want to be my girlfriend, send me a video that you make of you on YouTube over Instagram explaining why I should go out with you. If you're not between the ages of 18 and 24 and can't afford the travel expenses to Spokane, Washington, or do not live in Spokane, Washington, or the area, I am not interested. I've been thinking about this, and it seems to me like there is a mental illness that is more widespread than any other mental illness, and largely goes untreated because the people with this mental illness control most of the money. And that mental illness is NPD, or Narcissistic Personality Disorder. And you can tell the people that have NPD because they're what we largely regard as the normal people, even though they're not even close to being the majority of all people. The normal people are accepted for their narcissistic behavior because the people that control most of the money also have NPD, which includes even nice guy billionaires like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and you could even argue Mark Zuckerberg. All these dudes definitely have NPD. There are two types of NPD in my mind. This is not official, but it seems like there are two types of people with narcissistic personality disorder. And the people that have narcissistic personality disorder fall into at least two camps. And those camps are sociopathic narcissists, who are loud, and empathetic narcissists, who are quiet. The sociopathic narcissist is loud around other people, the extroverted type, and has no real care for anyone they see as having less than them. These are the people that are mostly loud off the internet, because empathetic narcissists are people that are mostly loud on the internet but quiet in real life, who exhibit the same signs as someone with NPD. And someone with NPD would be somebody that has an overbloated sense of self-worth and also little regard for people that they view as less than them. So naturally, NPD is growing because there's so many people that are accepted that have narcissistic personality disorder, and they're the ones that are breeding the most, because they're accepted the most by the people in power, who are the people with most of the money. People that act like they're trying to be hip and cool by dropping bigoted terms like the N-word or the R-word may be nice people and may be in your corner, but they definitely have narcissism enough to gaslight others. And gaslighting is usually where you take a person's personality and you tell them the exact opposite of what their personality is to them. It's the equivalent of saying, Lucas, you have a nice clean-shaven face when I have a beard right now. Or saying, you have a nice beard. See, those are empathetic narcissists. They're still gaslighting. They're still saying things like, well, you're crazy because you have a way of looking at the world that most people don't see. Or they'll use blanket statements like all or nothing thinking things where it's like, everybody hates you, no proof of this, of course. Or even everybody loves you, no proof of this, of course, either. So there are two types of narcissists, empathetic and sociopathic. I don't tend to be about myself on dates and in situations with friends. I kind of sit back and want to know what other people are doing. And I tend to care more about people who have less than me. But I'm definitely an empath. When it comes to being around people, I'm quiet. This is why I do YouTube videos. Forms of gaslighting would be like, you're bipolar, which I have a diagnosis of. A lot of people do. You're bipolar, therefore your way of thinking is incorrect. Well, that's not true either. There's plenty of famous people that have had revolutionary ideas that have bipolar, such as Abraham Lincoln. When they say things like, get therapy or get a job or go to school, these people usually aren't well schooled, because if they were, they wouldn't be so abrupt in telling you what to do. These people haven't gotten a lot of therapy themselves, so they don't know from personal experience. They're just repeating things. People that tell you get a job usually don't have a good job. Because people with good jobs who have gotten therapy and who go to school will not just be abrupt and kind of shout these things at you or even softly whisper them. They won't be like small phrases. If I liked therapy and I was telling people to get therapy, I'd say a longer statement than get therapy. I would explain why that situation would be good for you, rather than from offhand experience that is not anecdotal. If it's anecdotal and I'm explaining it from my perspective, or to somebody that is more analytical, a statistical perspective of something like that, then that person is not necessarily gaslighting. People that say, get a job, you'll make new friends, are still gaslighting. People that say, get therapy, you're sick, are still gaslighting. People that just like boom, 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 these kind of things, where especially they're not getting what they want from the situation that they're in, that they're suggesting to you. I know my mom tells me to get therapy a lot, but I know for a fact she's never gotten therapy, so she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. People that tell me to get religion are usually old people that hardly ever go to church or have never really understood the Bible to mean love thy neighbor and love thy enemy. These are people who just shout things like get religion or go on a walk. Usually if somebody tells you to go on a walk and to get some exercise, they're people that exercise less than you. Because I go out and walk like 1 to 4 hours a day. I've actually gotten therapy before and don't like it. I like it as much as I like going to church, which is not at all. It bores the hell out of me. This is why I do YouTube videos. You could say that I'm being an armchair psychologist now. And you know me and armchair psychologists, people that act like psychologists and psychiatrists, and say tough luck things to you, are not professional. Even if it's just one or the other, saying tough luck things or pretending that they're a psychologist because they met a psychologist that they agreed with, or pretending they're a philosopher or a religious person because they met somebody that they agree with on that. They pretend to be holier than thou. And that is a sure sign of narcissism and is a form of gaslighting, and it really needs to end, because it's like 12th grade mentality, or it's like English 101 mentality, where it's like they'll have a long pedantic reason for why you suck as a person, but they're unwilling to explain or prove their education. If they don't prove their education and they're calling you something by acting intelligent, then they are gaslighting you. If people come up to me and presume I'm well educated, I usually tell them I am not well educated, which is true. I've had like 2 years of college, and my highest degree is a high school diploma. So me right there pointing out a fault or two of mine means that I'm not a narcissist. Narcissists never point out their own faults. Whether they're empathic towards other narcissists, which is usually the case with empathic narcissists, like, ooh, you have a lot of money, I'm going to grovel over you. But they're very sweet-natured after you have a lot of money. Sociopathic narcissists attract these types like magnets, because they're the ones that are feeding their egos the most. So empathetic and narcissistic people who are sociopathic seek out the opposite. Narcissistic empaths, narcissistic sociopaths seek each other out. And the only reason they're accepted is because those are the people in control of most the society that we live in through politics. And through politics, they're controlling the system with money, the most money. the billionaires, the stuff Bernie talks about. So even if you're empathetic, I really would expect to see you being somebody that cares more about other people than just me, and not employ gaslighting to sort of tell me your side of the story. Because odds are, if you're saying things like take your pills, you're somebody that either does not take Prozac or some sort of psych med or mental health med. If you're some person that says take psych meds and you don't take mental health meds, you have an opinion that is not worth listening to. If you're somebody that says it in a way that makes you seem mean, like take your pills, or even you should really take your pills, any kind of like abrupt, even if soft-spoken, condescending stuff like that, means that you're not happy on your medication, and misery loves company. And I'm just not willing to be miserable. So if you're a gaslighter, look up on Google in the image search phrases gaslighters use, or just Google phrases gaslighters use. And if you see yourself in these patterns, then you need to stop. If you see me in these patterns and you need to point it out, you still need to stop, because if you point out those patterns in me or anybody else that is pointing out gaslighting in order to illustrate that two wrongs make a right, which it does not, you need to stop, because you're still gaslighting by telling people that they're gaslighting if you are specific. I am not being specific. Well, except with my mom. My mom does use those gaslighting phrases so levelly, like get therapy and stuff like that, and take your pills. Most parents are kind of gaslighters anyway. It doesn't make it acceptable behavior. I wouldn't raise my kids that way, because the world that I grew up in is not the same world as it was 40 years ago. And that stuff just does not work on kids. The kid is either going to call CPS and be put into a foster care, or they're going to exercise their rights as human beings and say that they don't want anything to do with it. And there's plenty of child advocacy groups out there that will listen if you search hard enough. If your parents are gaslighting you, that you could probably find something on the internet real quick on a professional to come and talk to your parents from the government that might tell them to shut their mouth up and to not do that anymore. Even if it's just a city government. If you know what gaslighting is, and you know that your parents are doing this to you and they won't stop doing it, look into it, because you'll save yourself a lot of struggle. If you have friends that are gaslighting you and you just have figured this out as something that you don't really like, then look into it. And maybe there's ways that you could get them to not do that anymore. If they don't, how to set up boundaries, such as saying, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. If you call me, I'm calling the cops. And if you try to hang out with me, I'm calling the cops. And just kind of live with that fact. Or that you're going to move away. And if you do this to attract people towards you, then you are one of these narcissists. Because narcissists will often do things like setting up boundaries, which they know attracts other people, and not being firm on those boundaries. And they do that to suck up empathy, and they do that to suck up sociopaths. And they do this as a way to get them to pay attention to them, because they're narcissists. When I say leave me alone and you don't leave me alone, then we have a problem. Because there are things, even with like my parents, where I've told them that I don't want to have to deal with their shit anymore, where they don't put me through that anymore. If they do, I will reiterate that I don't like that. And they know that I'll just cut them off. I don't care about any kind of inheritance if they're going to be rude, but I will stick around if they're not rude. And they don't do it very often. But when they do, I do point out that that's gaslighting and bad behavior. It does not suit me well. So they quit for long periods of time. I'm always waiting for them to start it again, because they know I don't like it. Look up those gaslighting phrases. Watch this video twice. Because if people use them on you and you're uncomfortable, now you know that these narcissists are trying to manipulate you. And if they can't manipulate you, they call you crazy. And if they call you crazy, they're using ableism, which is a form of bigotry. And you could get them for discrimination and bring them to court. Or at least get them arrested by having a no contact order or any kind of like order where people can't be around you. If you got those things and they held true in court and they violate them, then they're at fault. One guy tried to get one against me because he was the narcissist in the situation and I didn't sign it. I left town. Because if he chased after me, he would be the one in jail. It's a situation that is obviously something where I felt that he was gaslighting. When my girlfriend got one against me, I agreed with it. So there is a difference. It's not a man-woman politics thing either. It just, I have the wherewithal to see what is a worthy no contact order and an unworthy no contact order. The one that my girlfriend got against me was probably justified. The one that this friend got against me in Olympia was not justified. Trust me on that. And this was like 4 years ago. And the whole reason he got it is because I told him I didn't like to be dragged out of bed, which he would do. He pulled me out of the bed with my arm. And then when I said that I didn't like this, he got a no contact order against me. And I refused to sign it. So I left town because I knew that if I left town and he chased, he would be in jail. Spokane has nicer weather in the summer anyway. So that's another reason that I left Olympia. Because I was being stalked around town by this guy. And then he gave me a no contact order after I threatened to get him a no contact order against him. I gave him the chance. He didn't. He got one after he was stalking me around town. I left his house and was sleeping on the street after he started pulling me on the arm. And then when I was out there living on the street for the week, he got a no contact order against me. So explain to me how that makes sense, because I won't believe you. Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to my stepdad, who was on a city council. The girlfriend stuff made sense to my stepdad. But the stuff with this guy didn't make sense to my stepdad. And that there was a red flag. Don't gaslight people.